You must remember this, a kiss is still a kiss, a sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental things apply as time goes by. And when two lovers woo, they still say I love you, on that you can rely. No matter what the future brings as time goes by.
I'm very, very happy to have with us today John Leitz. John has been in broadcasting a long, long time, and at this time is general manager of WICZ and My 8. Any other ones? Just the two.
Just the two. Just the two today.
Okay. So let's start at the beginning. Were you born in this area?
I was born in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not far away. Just outside. I said I grew up in the suburbs of Susquehanna, Pennsylvania.
The suburbs.
The suburbs of Susquehanna.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You went to school down there.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
what happened was, Bob, after college.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to college down in Tennessee.
Oh. Okay.
I actually started at Mansfield, and then I transferred down there, and I ended up going to school. Actually went for my master's at East Tennessee State.
In
Johnson City, Tennessee.
No.
What year?
Yeah, no. What subject?
Business.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you've had a business degree and an MBA.
I never finished the MBA.
Oh, okay.
No.
There's a difference.
Well, I don't know, but
okay. Nevertheless, you got a degree in business.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where'd you go from there?
Well, from there, I was looking for my first job, and I had a background selling sports promotion with a fellow named Don Bean. And
This was local then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was local. We sold all through the state of New York and Pennsylvania.
Oh.
We'd sell for all the Eastern League baseball teams, and remember the old Triple City Jets League?
Yeah.
Yeah. We sold the program books and pony nights and things like that. So that was my background. That's what I was doing all the way through college. So when I went out of college, I was looking for a job in sales, and I started off and I interviewed for 3 jobs, all in the same period of time. One was with IBM, and they had the good sense not to hire me. And then I had Later Leaf Pharmaceuticals, and at the same time I interviewed with Roger Conklin and WQYT, The Quiet Island.
Really?
Yeah, and Roger offered me a job there, and I started there in 1973.
Oh, so you weren't. You were selling sports stuff then.
I was selling all the way through college. I sold these sports program books and pony nights and all kind of kid nights and any kind of promotion.
So you went to work then at WNBF Radio out of college.
Yeah, first job out of college.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, started right off. I started off working for Roger Conklin.
Okay. When was that?
1973.
In 73. Okay.
In 73. Yeah. And I worked for Roger. And things were going pretty well. And in about year and a half later, Peter Romanoff came there. I don't know if you remember Peter.
He was.
He was from RAB.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then he was a general manager there.
He was the general manager.
Okay.
And he actually he took Randy Varney, myself, and Roger out to dinner, and he was trying to get me to switch over from QIT to NBF.
Oh.
Which, of course, Roger wasn't thinking was a great idea, and Randy was all for it. And so we went through this whole dinner, and then at the end I said, okay, well, what kind of a list are you going to give me? Because, the list is what it all is.
Yeah.
And they said, well, we don't have a list for you. And I said, well, Pete, what are we talking about? I'm fine over where I am. I'm okay. And so Pete was all upset. He was mad at me, and but I played with Roger for a little while longer, and then eventually I did switch over to WNBF Radio.
Well, but at that time, WNBF was the gorilla.
That was the gorilla.
Yeah. And so at that time, then they had a manager, a sales manager at QIT, and a sales manager at NBF.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you did at some point go over.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I went over and worked for Randy.
And how long were you
And
there?
I was there until sometime in 1975. And what had happened was, back in those days, as far as accounts receivables went, if you sold something, you got paid on it, and that was the end of it.
Right.
If the company never got paid, didn't matter.
Right.
You still got paid. Well, my biggest account, and the one I had really made my mark on, was a business called W.T. Grants.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
W.T. Grants was the biggest biller on the station, and I had a great rapport with those guys, and I could go over there, and if we needed to make like $360 to hit budget,
Uh-huh.
I could go down and sell them a remote with John Leslie
Uh-huh.
or Bill Parker
Uh-huh.
and hit our budget. And so anyway, unfortunately, W.T. Grant went bankrupt.
Right.
And it was right at that time that Stoner Broadcasting was putting into effect a new rule that said that if the account didn't pay, then they charged it back to the salesperson.
salesman, yeah.
Well, Gary Voss was general manager then, and I went in to see Gary. I said, Gary, this is going to cost me so much money. I'm just not even going to stay if this is what we're going to do. And he says, well, it's a company-wide
Well,
dictum. That's what's going to happen. I said, okay. So I left. And I was in sport. I did the sports promotion for a little while, and then I went to work with Tom Shiptanko over at WINR. And
INR radio at that time.
INR radio with Tom. Tom was the GM, and Mitch was Mitch in the morning, and
Mitch,
Dave Mitchell.
Dave Mitchell.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I worked with both of them.
All right.
Yeah, and then what had happened was I was the regional sales manager for them, and I made friends with quite a few of the buyers regionally, and a fellow named Marty Owens. Remember Marty Owens? was looking for a salesperson,
Uh-huh.
and so he called me up and went over to ICZ and started there back in the Goodyear building
Uh-huh.
in 1976.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's when I met you.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. That's when I met you. You were the
Was it-
news director at the time.
Yeah, well, I was doing it. I don't know that we had a news director, but
Well,
yeah,
that's
I was
true.
in news.
Yeah. You're
Well,
right.
I think there were three of us over there at the time.
You're right. You're right. You're
Okay,
right.
so you started then as a salesman at Channel 40,
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
and who was the general manager then?
Joe Kilcullen.
Joe Kilcullen. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
And Joe passed away of a heart attack.
Yeah.
And then Jesse Pavere came in.
Uh-huh.
And Jesse played a really big part in my life.
Yeah.
And I worked with Jesse all the way from the time he got there till 1991.
So you became sales manager then at Channel 40?
I became, I think, local sales manager in around 78. And I think in 1980 I was the GSM.
Okay.
And I was the GSM there until I left in 1991 after Jesse had gone.
Talk a little bit about Jesse.
Jesse,
You were real close.
we were very
And
tight.
he was pretty much your mentor.
Yes, he was. Jesse was my mentor. Absolutely. I remember one day he took me aside. And he said, "Let's go have lunch." We had lunch, and he says, "I think what you have to do is you got to decide."
That's Jesse.
In his
He's from
southern-
what, Alabama?
Birmingham, Alabama. He says, you got to decide what you want to do. Now, you can keep on doing what you're doing, and that's fine. Or if you want to go and do something more, he says, I will work with you, and I will teach you
Wow.
what you need to know. And I said, well, Jesse, you know what? That's what I'd like to do. And he said, okay. And from that point on, I sat in on all the meetings that Jesse had. I sat in whenever the syndicators would come in. I would meet with the syndicators, all the news directors, the news meetings, anything that we did.
Yeah.
I was with them the whole time.
Right.
So Jesse and I were very, very tight. He was a great guy. I tell you, this isn't really a broadcasting story, but it's a great story of Jesse. He had gotten his pilot's license.
Oh.
And so he wanted to fly everywhere. So he was saying, he'd come to me, he'd say, Joan, how about we go fly to Syracuse? I go, Jesse, it's an hour. I can drive to Syracuse faster than, I mean, by the time we go to the airport and everything, I said, fine, so let me wait, let's wait till I have to go someplace farther. So finally I had to go to Boston. So Jesse said, can I fly you there? And I said, yeah, you can fly me to Boston. So we went down, and we went out of the old Tri-Cities airport, and we took off, and it was a beautiful day. And all of a sudden, when we got over the mountains, it started snowing, and it started snowing hard. And now, by the time we flew into Boston, you couldn't see your hand in front of you.
Whoa.
And so Jesse goes, and we fly in, we landed, and went, okay. And so we go make our calls in Boston, and get back in the plane, and off we go. And he says, you know what? He says, I'm going to fly back following the river. And I said, Jess, you fly back any way you want. I don't care, you know. 'Cause So we're flying back, and Jesse's following the river, and all of a sudden he goes, my God, Joan, somehow we missed Binghamton. We're over Owego. So we turn around, we fly back down the river. He goes, no, that's not right either. I don't know, maybe we never got to Binghamton. Back down the river. Now we go, my God, Miss Agnes, we missed Binghamton again. Back down the river. Finally, I go, Jesse, I see Frito-Lay down there. We've never gotten to Binghamton. We never went past it. We never got there. So Jesse goes, my gosh. So we keep on flying, and now we're flying into Endicott. And we're just getting ready to land again. And we're flying along, and all of a sudden the propeller goes pop-pop, pop-pop, pop-pop. Shh. So all you have is air. And I'm looking over, and I'm looking at Jesse, and I said, Jesse, is there anything you can do about this? And Jesse goes, well, I'm on my checklist, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, God, I hope it's a short checklist. And he's going down, no, not number one, not number two, not number three. I'm going, oh, my God. And I'm sitting there, and I'm saying, well, let's see, I got my insurance paid up. I said, you know what, I can't believe there was a great golfer called Champagne Tony Lima. He won the British Open. And he died in a plane crash on a golf course. And here we are over Enjoy, and I'm going, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to get splattered all over Enjoy. I said, I can't believe it. I never even liked this course that much. and finally, all of a sudden, the propeller goes, pa-ping, pa-ping, pa-ping. We start back up, and we go, and the trees at Enjoy, now we were lower than the trees at Enjoy.
And you were over the river then?
No, now we're over the golf course.
Oh.
And the next thing you know, we went, and our wheels grazed the tree on the way back over, and we landed.
Wow.
So it was a close call. So I got off the plane, I kissed the tarmac, and I said, Jesse, I am never flying anywhere with you again.
No.
Ever.
Oh.
And he goes, John, why are you so upset? I said, so upset? You almost killed me. And he goes, well, I don't know why you're so upset now. When you should have been worried was when we landed Boston. You know, I'm not instrument rated.
Oh. So you flew in there in a snowstorm.
We flew in a blind in a snowstorm, and he wasn't instrument rated.
So he was worried then, but he wasn't worried when
he wasn't as worried when we were going to crash
when the engine quit.
No. Oh,
that's
my
funny.
Lord.
Well, so Jesse was so well liked by everybody.
He was a character. Yeah. He was a character.
So what happened? Jesse, was he asked to retire, or what happened?
Yeah, actually what happened was that the owner of the station was a guy named Henry Gazalewicz, right, which is where the WICZ came from. If people ask me where that ever came from, well, that's where, WICZ. And Henry had run the station, and that station and station in Bend for years and years. And he decided at one point that he was going to have his daughter run it. And so his daughter came into the stations, and she really wanted to do things her way, and she didn't feel that people were doing she had her own conceptions, whatever. So she sort of pushed Jesse into retirement at that point, and which was kind of a sad thing. And although he'd had a great career, and he actually went on from there to do Partnership 2000.
With what?
Partnership 2000 through the Broome County.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
She ran that.
Yeah. Well, so where were you in all this?
Well, I interviewed for the job as the GSM
Wait,
at ICZ
well, but
after Jesse left.
okay, but he was general manager.
Yeah.
And what about Henry's daughter then? She wasn't the general manager?
No, she was the owner.
Oh, she was the owner.
Yeah, she was the
Oh.
owner. And she had a fellow that she had her eyes on,
Uh-huh.
and she brought him in to do all the interviewing, and ended up marrying him. He used to work for Katz in New York, and he ended up hiring a buddy of his to come in and do the job as general manager. So that was a guy named John Hurley. So I was there for about, I would say, maybe 6 months after John came, and then Tony McMahon was over at IBT, which was MGC at the time, and he'd been trying to recruit me or my guys for a while. And so what we did, we ended up, as Lombardo always said, who was another character, we had the Palace Coup. And so I came over as sales manager and brought with me John Burchell.
Wow.
And Phil Jacobs.
Whoa.
And I ended up after that bringing Maura Burtis. And we kind of turned things around over
So
there.
you just walked over there with your own crew then?
Pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah. And they'd really been struggling there ever since Lombardo had bought the station.
Right.
So, we went over there and pretty much turned it around pretty quick.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so what happened then?
What happened then was...
Well, wait, let's go back just a moment. How did you turn it around?
Well, we had... they did not have a very strong sales staff.
I see.
And so what we did is we brought the sales staff from ICZ basically there,
Uh-huh.
and we had all the contacts, and we knew everything, we pretty much knew everybody in town.
Yeah.
And the product really wasn't that dissimilar to what we had at ICZ in the first place.
Uh-huh.
And so, it was an ABC station, and we were NBC at that time.
So then, where did you go from Channel 34?
I was sales manager, and then Tony was transferred, and so they made me GM there.
Uh-huh.
So I was GM there for 6 years, up until 1997. Made it through quite a few sales. And the last sale...
Oh, that's right. At that time, that
Yeah.
station was...
we were flipping left and right.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
who were some of the people you worked for in those
Well,
seven?
Phil Lombardo actually was a guy who had a big effect on my life too.
Oh.
He was pretty much my second mentor, and Phil was he was something. I'll tell you. There were a lot of Lombardo stories, most of which I can't tell. Phil had a temper.
I
He was
see.
volatile. Let's
Oh.
just say that. And when he would come to the stations, he'd come to the stations quite a few times a year, and he was picky. Like if somebody had a picture on a wall, he would fly off the handle.
No pictures on walls.
No pictures on walls. I'll tell you one story about Phil. We're in a meeting, a manager's meeting, and everybody was going around and they were talking about their own departments. And came to poor Darcy Fauci. Darcy was their news director then, and obviously at Channel 34 back then, as far as there was not a heck of a lot of no, there wasn't much to direct.
Oh.
And we had, I think, 8 people in news.
Well, that was
And
pretty big staff then. Huh?
I think we might have had 8, but that's wait a minute. I think I'm stretching it. Bob,
Okay.
now that I think about it. No, that's a little too much. I mean, more like 5 with some
Okay.
text. And so Darcy was talking about the fact that the news car needed tires, and the news car needed this, and then that they'd had this had broken, and this camera was broken, they hadn't got it fixed, and so on and so forth. So Phil went through, listened to the whole thing, and he said, "Are you done?" She said, "Yes." And he slammed his hand down on that desk so hard, I thought the desk was going to break in half, and he just went off on a tirade for about 2 minutes. And Kelly O'Connor was next, and she started off, and it was so funny, she says, Kelly's going, "Well, in my department," And I mean, she's like stepping on eggshells. And the next thing I know, I hear the hand come down on the desk again, and he says, "I can't believe you made me yell at you at Christmas."
He's pointing at Darcy?
Yeah.
Well, what was the crime that she committed?
She talked about things that were not germane to the rest of the group.
Oh,
If
I see. Oh,
yeah, that's what he was
I
upset
see.
about.
Yeah.
If your car doesn't work, that's your problem. That's
Don't bother us.
Don't bother the rest of us. That was her sin. So anyway, but he was a very demanding guy. But on the other hand, he was a very intelligent guy. He run stations. He built his stations up all by himself, and he was very successful. And I did learn a lot from him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned a lot of things from Phil.
Wow. Well, so, and who else did you have?
Ray Schonbeck, who is still around. Ray's the GM out in San Diego now. He had a group, and unfortunately for him, the group he bought consisted of a lot of Phil's old stations, and the one in Burlington pretty much put him out of business.
Oh.
Because what had happened was that the GM there, who was a friend of mine, he didn't retain him, brought in another fella, and he had come from radio, and he didn't realize that the Canadians buy business once a year. And that was it. Well, he didn't realize that, so he didn't really pursue it.
And he missed the date.
And he
right?
missed the upfront, he was done. And that was it. Tanked the whole group.
Yeah.
So,
So you had several companies that you worked for,
yeah.
and I guess each one had its own personality.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they were all different. Yeah. Yeah.
And what have you still had the same sales crew, the same people there at that time?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We always, that was a constant for us there.
What were some of the, who were some of the other personalities there?
That we had on the sales staff, you mean?
Sales staff and programming.
Oh, well, of course, we actually had a lot, it's interesting because we actually had a lot of people go through who ended up working not only at 34 and 40 too, making it pretty big, you know. And I'm trying to think now, we had several people in sports. Rob Powers, I ended up working with it at INR.
Oh, so Rob went from
ICZ.
Yeah, he went over to ICZ from Channel. He started.
No, he was at ICZ.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think who made it fairly
Were you at the
big.
time? Were you there at the time that Mike Dardis was there?
No.
Mike has done very well.
Yes, he has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you left at some point. Then you went back to Channel 40.
I did. What happened was I had handled the deal to sell the station to a group called Ackerley. And so I'd been the fellow I was doing business with was a guy named Steve Kamadian. And I knew Steve fairly well, so I went to Steve and I said, Steve, one thing I'd like to know is what you're planning on doing here as far as a general manager in the future. I'd like to stay if you want to take me, and I could give you what it would take to keep me. But if you're going another direction, I'm okay with that too. I understand. He says, well, I don't think we're going to have a general manager. I said, okay. So at that point, I figured out where I stood on that.
Yeah. You weren't going to be general manager.
No. So after we sold the station, I had been in contact before with a fellow named Bob Hamaker. And Bob Hamaker was the COO for Northwest Broadcasting, who worked for Brian Brady. And I had a lot of connections in New York through the rep firms, because I'd been doing business with the rep firms since 1980. So I knew a lot of those people well, and we knew a lot of the same people, so I interviewed and actually had the job there. As the other job closed, I had like 2 months in between for a little vacation, and then I went and started at ICZ in September of that same year.
And what happened that you went to ICZ?
Well, what happened was that Northwest Broadcasting had brought it from Stainless, who had had it all those years. And so when they took over the station in September, I came in as the new general manager for them.
Were you there when Channel 40 went from NBC to
Just missed
Fox.
it. I just
So
missed it.
you were there
Yeah.
after or before? Or you got there after?
I came after they went, after they did that. That happened in 1996, and we bought the station in 1997.
Okay. So
and,
now,
and that was interesting too. You know why they
Yeah.
went from Fox to NBC,
I-
or NBC to Fox?
I guess it was money.
It was money,
How much
Yeah.
money?
a lot of money. It was like over $1 million. It was
Oh,
like
really?
an 8-year deal, and it was over $1 million a year, pretty much for the 8 years.
That Fox paid Stainless.
Yeah.
So you walked in and Fox was still paying you then.
Oh, sure.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
see, I had heard, well, maybe I had heard a number of $250,000,
Oh, no.
but no,
No.
a lot more, huh?
A lot more than that.
Well, that makes it sort of worthwhile then, huh?
oh,
but
well,
you must
as it turned out, Fox ended up in one time becoming the #1 network. So,
But you must have had lots of challenges starting out, going from NBC to Fox.
oh, sure, because Fox was still at that point sort of the fourth network, just really getting acknowledgement as even one of the big four.
Yeah.
And what actually did it for Fox and turned it around was when they bought the NFL. That's why a lot of that built the Fox
Yeah.
network.
Yeah. And so that certainly affects you then locally.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But we had strong programming outside of Fox, and
Yeah.
that was the big thing. We had, we still had a fairly decent news. We were able to build that up over time again, and we had, we're strong 7 to 8 and 5 to 6, and that was the thing that kept us in pretty good shape.
talk about some of the personalities over the years. You've mentioned the people in management and sales.
Yeah.
Who were some of the people you remember over the years at mainly, I guess, Channel 40?
Oh my gosh, there's so many of them. Dean Adams comes to mind right off the bat. Dean was a tremendous guy. Dean was actually news director at
Channel 12.
Channel. Well, he wasn't news director at Channel 12,
Oh.
but he was the number 2
Uh-huh.
at Channel 12 in news. Then he came over to us as the news director. Then he left and went with Jim Matthews.
Uh-huh.
When Jim Matthews went and they got the radio station there in Nogales, Mexico. Remember that one?
No, I don't remember Nogales,
That
Mexico.
didn't go well. So
I heard about the local one.
so he came back to Binghamton. I hired back as my news director again
Right.
at 34.
Uh-huh.
And
Oh, he was at 34 then.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I had him back again at 34.
Uh-uh.
Then when I went over to Channel 40, he came back over with me again.
I see.
So I was with Dean a long time. Dean was a great guy, died of a heart attack.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. And so they were sort of a team then, Matthews and
Well,
Adams.
they were at that time,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What now? I was thinking about this conversation, and I was thinking, you have at Channel 40, it appears to me, very little turnover.
We've had very little.
You've got people there that have been there since the 70s.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, well, Mary Ann, for instance.
Yeah,
right?
Mary Ann. Yeah, Mary Ann.
Vern Rollins is
And Vern
program
Rollins.
director over
Yeah.
there. And then you've got some others that have been there over 20 years anyway.
Oh, a lot of them. Yeah, sure. Particularly, like even behind the scene guys, like the master control operators.
Right.
There's fellas there that have been there. Oh my gosh. Well, like for example, Ed Bullitt, and going to be. Gosh, he's got to be there since the '80s at the least.
Who was that?
Ed Bullitt in master control. John Ziller's been there a long time. We have
Yeah.
a lot of people in that building that have been there
Oh,
an
yeah.
awful long time.
Mick Dwyer.
Mick.
Yeah.
Now Mick, there's a character.
There's a character.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mick's a
But
character.
Mick started, as I recall,
Yeah.
Mick started in news.
Yeah.
He was on air, I believe.
You're right.
Then he was.
Right.
Then you
Hardly
see him.
anybody remembers that.
No, I remember. But
I know, but I'm telling you,
But-
like anybody remembers that.
And
He
then-
actually was our anchor for a time.
right.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
you see Mick out with a camera. Then he was doing a news video,
Yeah.
and I think he's hit his zenith now. When he started in news, I know that, or in weather, he was really nervous.
Yes, he was.
But
Yes, he
now
was.
it's like he's
You know what?
he
You know what
found his
happened
thing.
about? I'll tell you the story of that. I had Mick, and of course we're in Union Shop,
Uh-huh.
and Mick had been there a long time.
Right,
So Mick was a photog,
right.
and for a photog, he was making a lot of money.
Uh-huh.
And I had been going through meteorologists left and right. I had 3 in a row, and for whatever reason, one of them was there 6 months and left. The other 2 didn't work out, and it was just. And I said, "This is crazy. We're just like on a, going in circles here." So, I thought to myself, "My God, we have AccuWeather. It isn't like you've got to be a meteorologist
Right.
to figure it out. They're sending you the information right there.
Yeah.
We're paying them for it."
Right.
And I said, I've got Mick here, and he's got a great personality.
Oh, everybody knows
maybe-
and loves
and
Mick,
everybody knows
right?
him. I
Yeah.
said, you know what? Maybe this is going to be something that works. So I called him in. I said, Mick, I got an idea, and I talked to him about it. And Mick says, I don't think I want to do that. He says, I said, Mick, how hard can it be? I said, come on.
Yeah.
I said, get out there and just be yourself.
Right.
And he said, well, I said, so he starts and he's nervous, and I talked to him again. I said, Mick, just go out and have fun.
Yep.
That's all.
Yep.
That's all I want you to do. Go out and have fun.
Yeah.
And for better or for worse, that's what he's done ever since.
Oh yeah. He's been at it maybe 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah, he's been voted the best weather guy in the market
Yeah.
the last 2 years.
Yeah. And he's entertaining.
Oh, he's certainly
And
entertaining.
he does
really
give you the forecast.
He does. He does.
Now, what about Larry? Larry
Larry
Sperano.
Sperano.
He's been there quite a while.
Larry's actually Steve left. Steve Craig,
Yeah.
who's also a fellow been everywhere.
Right.
Steve left in '98, maybe, I guess. And so we're looking for an anchor. And Larry'd been working in Hartford, and he had been in Scranton before that as an anchor in Scranton.
Huh.
And we brought him in for an interview and hired him back in 1998, and he's been there ever since.
Yeah.
So we've had a lot of continuity in news,
Yeah.
which is hard to do.
Yeah, and apparently there's some magic over there that keeps the people there.
Yeah.
Anybody I've met over there is really nice and nice people.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should ask you this, but I'll do it anyway.
Well, go ahead.
In an interview with Gino Riccadelli,
Yeah.
who was. And
of course-
he's still doing stuff over there.
Oh
I
yeah,
guess.
Gino's still working for us as a consultant. Yeah, my God, Gino. There's a guy that's been he's built the station longer than I had.
Oh, he started before it was on the air.
Put it on the air.
Yeah.
He put it on the air.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Anyway, Rick said that in all his time at Channel 40, there are only 2 people that made a profit over there.
Yeah.
Jesse Pavere and you.
That's true.
So I think that's a feather in your cap there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what's your secret?
Oh, I don't think there's any real secret. I think that, I think the biggest thing you have to do is you have to hire good people and let them go do their job.
Yeah.
We've always tried to have a strong sales staff. We've worked with news. We've got to have good production. We've got wonderful production people.
Yeah.
And always have. We've had a good production department.
Now, also over the years, you've been involved in community
Sure.
projects and organizations. You want to
Yeah.
talk about some of those?
Yeah, I've been involved in a lot of different organizations. I was been with the United Way, worked with them for for a very long time, and actually was lucky enough to be the chair for the campaign a few years back, which was a great experience. They do a great job in the community, and I've got a chance to meet some great people while I've been there. Binghamton Rotary, I've been involved with them. Jesse got me in Binghamton Rotary. That was funny. He'd sit there at Binghamton Rotary, and he talks me into getting in, right? This was when I was, I was GM over at Channel 34. And so Jesse would, I'd come down, I think I'd be sitting at the table with Jesse. Well, Jesse had all the gals that were new for Rotary sitting at his table. And if there was one chair left, and for example, if Joanne Kosak wanted to sit there, I'm out. It was funny. But I've had a lot of great experiences with Rotary, and we've done a lot of good things there, and I was lucky enough to be the president of Rotary in the past there, too. So, PCC Foundation now I'm working with, been on that board for a while.
Do you consider that as part of your success?
I think so. Sure. I think it's very important that you need to be involved in the community. You have to know the people in the community. Yeah. You got to know, let's call them the movers and shakers of the community. You've got to be a part of it.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's very important, and I think that was one of the reasons that Jesse and I were probably the only ones that make money there, because the people that were there in the interim really were not part of the community.
Like out-of-towners.
Pretty much,
yeah.
And they really didn't, the mentality of the management there, and I'm talking about the ownership too, was not to be involved in that sort of thing. That it was kind of a waste of time, and I think that's anything but true.
Talk a little bit about some of these technical changes over the years. You've seen a lot of those.
I sure have. Yeah.
How was it now?
I mean, today
today
we have our news in HD.
Right.
When I started out, Jesse used to say, Jesse said, we got two prices for spots. We'll charge you $50 if it moves, $10 if it doesn't.
Well, I happened to be in news about that time, and I remember that we started with Scott Dilliard called it a heart and lung machine.
Yes.
It was a black and white film processor.
Oh yeah.
And some days, I remember one time when Scott came out of the darkroom. I won't say exactly what he said, but Scott came out with a piece of film about that long.
Yeah.
And he put it down on Carl was anchoring it. Put it on Carl's desk and says, "Here's your news film for tonight." But he used more colorful words. And then, and so we started, when I started there, we were in black and white.
Sure.
And if we used an audio cassette at that time, and would shoot, it was silent film, silent black and white, and we would freeze a frame. We'd go to a news conference and shoot 15 seconds.
Yeah.
But we would record the thing, and then we come back, and Fred Heckman would be directing, and Fred would, they would freeze a frame, and then play the audio cassette along with it.
Yeah.
And then went to sound film, and then to videotape. And Channel 40 always seemed like they were in the lead on these things.
We were, and a lot of it was Gino.
Yeah.
We, as a matter of fact, that's 100% true. We always were in the lead.
Yeah.
And even we were the first. We're the first station here just recently to go HD. We're the first one with HD News.
Right.
We were the first one to air syndicated product in HD. So that's true. We always were able to be pretty cutting edge.
I remember when Channel 40 went videotape in news.
Yeah.
That was a big deal.
It was a very big deal.
And Channel 12 didn't do it for another 5 years, I think it was, because they said that it wasn't. They didn't like the quality or something like that.
Yeah.
But in your case, it saved a lot of money. Film was expensive.
Lot of money. Saved an awful lot of money.
Yeah.
That was a great move. And today, gosh, you go in and like in our master control, we've got an all new master control, and pretty much everything's automated.
How
change?
How has that affected your employment situation? Do you have more
We haven't-
people or steady or?
No, it's been that's been steady. That's
Uh-huh.
been steady, but as we talk about the changes that have happened in broadcasting in both radio and television, one thing that has happened, we've had this emergence of supergroups, and that's something that you've seen change. Now, you have a lot of what the group will do is they'll hub things from, let's say, Rochester, Syracuse, and so all their master control will be from there, for
Oh, I
example.
see. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that's something that we've seen.
How much is Channel 40 doing in the area of internet?
Oh, a lot. We've got an internet manager, Jeff Horn, and we've got Krista Siri, who works with him in internet, and all the salespeople sell internet too. And we've been able, because Jeff has done a phenomenal job, we've been really able to do extremely well with internet. We've done the best of anybody in our group by far, and I would dare say we do well above the average for markets our size in web. And it's also that's a tribute to our news department too, because they're the ones that drive the viewers to the page.
Sure. So you're doing a lot of streaming on the internet?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do the news over there, and we do a lot of contests and watch to wins and half offs and all that sort of thing.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
So
and that's an emerging category. That's it won't be long that when salespeople, it's going to be standard that when a salesperson goes in and presents a sales idea to a client, that they're going to have. They're going to have all these different screens. They're going to be hitting television. They're going to be hitting mobile. They're going to be hitting the web, and one right after the other. And basically, what you're going to do is you're going to be following the consumer throughout the day, all day long. Text messages to them.
You're, correct me if I'm wrong, you're, I guess, on the verge of transmitting to, like, Dick Tracy. Have you come that far yet? Where you're over the air, can be picked up on a portable TV set?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can get us right on your mobile phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's through
SyncBack. It's an app.
Oh, okay. And that's through the internet, or is it over the air?
No, this SyncBack SyncBack is more of an over-the-air deal. The internet, it's basically that's our mobile. That's our mobile device that we're going to use to move forward. Right now, we don't have all our programming on it because we have to get the rights to syndicated products.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But we're able to air our news on there, and Warner Brothers, all their products we air on there. So you can just sit there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and if you want to watch one of our shows, put it up and watch it on your phone.
Sure. What do you see now as the future of local television?
I think there's always going to be a future for local television. I think it's evolving. I think it's changing, and it's changing so fast I can't even believe it. But I think that you're going to see more and more viewing done on these different screens. We've survived a lot of things over the years. I remember when people were saying that VCRs was going to put local broadcasting out of business. Well, we found out now over time, and there's a lot of delayed viewing, certainly, but we find out that most of the delayed viewing goes to the local affiliates and the networks.
Sure.
And that when people watch it, most of them watch the show in its entirety. And even those that buzz through the commercials know the commercials because they've seen the commercials, so you get the same effect as you did. You watch that ad for the kids there for whoever, Verizon, I guess it is. And when you go through that ad, you're going to get the same effect as if you sat there because you've seen it 1,000 times already.
If there's somebody out there, some young person that would like to go into broadcasting, what advice do you have for them?
Well, I think that I think it's still going to be. I think it's going to be a great business. It's going to be a great business moving forward. Matter of fact, we have a lot of young people that work for us. That's one of the beauties of this business. You always have young people coming in, particularly with news, but also in sales. And I think the biggest thing is that you just got to you've got to accumulate knowledge. You've got to know your product.
So you're recommending a business degree then?
It doesn't. A business degree is fine, depending on what you're going to get into. But it doesn't even have to be a business degree. Basically, you've got to be able to. In today's world, you've got to have a knowledge of not just television, but you've got to have a knowledge of the internet and mobile and all these other platforms that are coming along. And it depends on what part of broadcasting, what part of the station you're getting into. But I think the one thing that always bears out is you have to hey, look at Gino Riccadelli. Gino still keeps up with what changes.
Oh, sure.
I mean, he still does, and that's the key. You've got it.
For those who aren't familiar with the name, I think people inside have heard Gino Riccadelli, but Rick is he's an engineer who helped put Channel 12 on the air, put Channel 40 on the air, and I think assisted with other stations also. And he's now in his 90s. He's 90-something years old and still working.
He still does a lot of things.
He was your transmitter expert, I believe, for the group, wasn't he?
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm sure when we finish here, all these questions that I was going to ask you are going to come out. Did you have any final comments, John, you'd like to make?
No, the only thing I would say is, I've been very lucky in my life to be able to work in this business and know the people I've gotten to meet. And in this little conversation, we talked about quite a few people, but there's so many others that I never got around to mentioning. Like we touched briefly on people like John Burchell and who I worked with for a long time, Phil Jacobs, Don Webb, and of course Wayne Gordon now that's been our GSM for quite a long time. And the beauty of this business is there are wonderful people in it, and it's when you want to talk about a business that's really a people business. That's what this is.
Well,
and you get a chance to, and one of the things, Bob, you get a chance along the way with that, along with having a lot of fun. You also get a chance to do a lot of good for your community, and that's a good thing too.
That's true. Okay, John, I want to thank you very much for coming over and talking with us.
Well, thanks for asking me.
We've been talking with John Leet, who is a veteran broadcaster and is currently the general manager of Channel 40, WICZ, and My 8.
That's right.
So thanks a lot, John. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You must remember this. A kiss is still a kiss. A sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental things apply as time goes by. And when two lovers woo, they still say I love you. On that you can rely. No matter what the future brings as time goes by.